This is actually, you know what? This is actually, I believe, our 10th episode. So it's
Oh,
a special episode in itself.
that's
Number 10.
so I'm so glad to be part of it.
Number
Yeah.
10. When we get to 100, we're going to review all our guests and have a big party online.
Oh, that's
Actually, in person
awesome.
be better.
Well,
Um,
I mean, recently, and I wish I had it up on my computer, as even just as for respect as well. I don't know the young man's name off the top of my head. I've seen it too many times. Some in on part of me actually doesn't want to see it anymore. But um, long story short, a young man recently was pulled over. This seems like a deja vu sort of thing. Young man was recently pulled over in Minneapolis. Um, this is in the wake of even the trial going on with George into the death of George Floyd right now, where um, in the midst of this, a young man was pulled over for a traffic stop. A police officer um, got out of their vehicle. Um, the young man was, you know, did not. He wanted to go back to his vehicle. He got out of his vehicle, wanted to get back into his vehicle. Police officer um, took out their weapon, their gun, and shot him, killed him. And the police officer's um, reasoning was that she thought that she had her taser. She thought it was her taser, and she only meant to tase him, and she didn't mean to shoot him, saying that it was accidental.
And
It
just
was
to add
never.
to that, I don't know if you guys know, but in Minneapolis, it's cops are allowed to pull you over if you have something hanging from your rear view mirror.
Wow.
Yeah, and I did not know in Minneapolis you couldn't have something hanging
Yeah.
from your
Good.
rear view.
That's good to know.
hang on. So this is the story then of the young man who I think he was with his girlfriend, or there's a young lady in the passenger side, and there was something in the middle.
Yeah.
So the caption, right, to get your attention is like police shoot man for having something dangling from his mirror, which sounds like ridiculous as a tag or as a title. Um, but I'll be very brief on this. Uh, I'll never say I'm tired of talking about this, but I'm always hurt when we talk about this. Um, I have a 17-month month old girl, um, and when she gets to of age and she's driving, I don't want to be having that talk. If police stop you, do this. Call them sir. Speak straight. Don't say more. Don't say you don't want to give that kind of conversation to your daughter, your son.
Right.
It's a horrible conversation. Like protect and serve sounds like annihilate and move on because these police officers. I just say if this happened to their children, that their wives or husbands were stopped by the police and they didn't come home. And I always say, reverse everything. If it was a black officer, it was a white kid, and there was a death, what would then happen? So America knows its problem. They know it, but it's like that problem that you refuse to address because you're just like, no, that's just gonna take too much emotional energy. I just don't have time for that. So let's just keep on addressing the situation with one bad apple. There are some industries you can't have one bad apple. You just can't even have half a bad apple. But in this industry of policing, they have hundreds. So I really don't. I cry inside my soul when I hear one person, and it's not always a black and white thing. I just think it's a human thing to have news that your son or daughter, whether they're Asian, Latino, white, black, whatever you want to call them, doesn't come home. That's it. Doesn't come home. you look at their bed and you're like, that's Tommy's bed. That's Sandra's bed. And a mother will cry a type of cry that only other mothers, other parents will understand. Because this is like they're not coming back. And it just hurts that this is a predominantly, an American topic, but that they're okay with it. That's what hurts. Protest and protest and protest.
Yeah.
It just hurts.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, it's what do we say about that? I mean, yeah, I mean, we're not going to get all into it, but I mean, that's well said. Well said.
Yeah.
I think I could agree on that. Natasha, what's your thoughts on this incident?
Just to add to that, I think what we're also having to recognize is that this has been happening for a really long time. It's just that we have social media now to showcase it. So I feel like finally we're getting a chance to see what's been kind of quiet or not talked about as much. So it's pulling out a lot of stuff for us to hopefully, like you said, try to fix this and make amends with it. But what is sad is, I've talked to a lot of my friends here, or, a lot of my um, like friends that have sons that are feeling that pain and also the fear that they're like, how, when I turn 19 and I'm driving around at night in the States, I have to feel different than everybody else. I have to actually be mindful if I'm wearing a hoodie. I have to be careful when I'm walking at night around a group of women that they might clutch their purse. Or when I go into a convenience store, I have to make sure that, I appear that I'm a friendly person. And I empathize with that for a couple seconds because for a lot of people, you just go out and you're not even thinking about it. You're just like, I'm going to walk the street in a black hoodie at night. And for some people, they have to fear that. And that's the part that really bothers me. But like I said before, this has been happening for years. It's just that we now get to see it on video. And it's social media is that platform where we're getting to see it. So I think our role is to make sure not only as human beings making a conscious effort to help change this, but again, if you have kids, like, you want to make sure that they are strong and that they know how to deal with these circumstances when they pop up. So we have a job and a duty, I think, to try to change this, and that's the most I think we can do. But I agree with you that this is painful because it's not about it's obviously skin color, but it's a little kid. Like, it's just these kids that are we've had childhood things that we used to do, and now kids are getting shot. Like, I just it's hurtful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's well said as well. I mean, I can't even just imagine. I mean, I know growing up, I've been fortunate or unfortunate enough. I mean, if we want to say, to have some run-ins where it didn't end like that. And again, not that I was doing anything wrong or anything like that, or just getting pulled over, right? So you don't think about that kind of thing happening, but now it's at the forefront of everybody's mind,
Exactly.
especially if you're a person of color, right? Like, or even more so, you're a black man. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, it's tough. I mean, again, something that could be a whole nother topic is, I think that this is sort of something where people don't understand the the calls for when people say defund the police, right? And some people go to extreme and saying abolish the police, but I think these incidences are what people are talking about, right? If a police officer, this particular officer, apparently was on the force for over 25 years, um, so knowing the difference between a gun and a taser, the weight of it, how it operates.
Yeah, it just boggles my mind.
Right.
How do you
Yeah.
have 25 years experience and not know the difference like of a weighted gun to a taser though?
Yeah.
And what side it's on? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That stuff that I'm a little baffled with.
Yeah.
You know,
You think that with that, yeah, with that training, I mean, there's not really much excuse. I mean, everybody can make mistakes, but again, as John said, with the bad apples, I mean that there's some jobs where you shouldn't be allowed to. The mistakes have some consequences
Well,
as
when the
well.
mistake is the cost of a life,
Right.
there's something to say about that. Like there needs to be then a retraining or an education on
Right. Yeah. And I think that's part of the and part of my point, just to finish up with the as far as the defund police thing is, again, if it is happens to be, and again, I've said this before, John, on other shows or when we've talked. I mean, part of part of my personality, if you want to say a double-edged sword, is I am usually willing to give people the benefit of the doubt, almost no matter who they are. Um, right? And John's laughing,
I know, I know.
and sometimes John's like, "You really, gonna give them a chance?" I'm like, "Listen, everybody, whatever." But I mean, if that was the case, then there needs to be some changes, like some fundamental changes to
yeah.
that organization, right? There needs to be. This is a shared opinion with a lot of people, but I still I believe too that there needs to be, maybe at traffic stops, maybe police need to be, just like how John was rolling in the Hummer, maybe police need to be rolling with somebody else, like someone that's trained, has a background in psychology and sociology to be able to address and talk to people if there's a domestic disturbance, or if there is someone who's acting some certain way, to be able to talk to them without pulling out a weapon. That's my thought.
I'll say it like this: um, if Natasha, if you're at home, let's say you're renting an apartment, and you call your landlord and say, "Hey, my kitchen sink, I'm not getting cold water," and your landlord comes in with like um, a bulldozer, it's like, bam, it's fixed. Well, you just took out my entire apartment actually, and me. That's how you solve a problem where I think, knock on the door, right? Hey, it's me. Can I come in? Great. Take a look at it. Like, how are you going to come in with a gun to an unarmed person?
I know.
And then instead of talking to the person, they're sometimes shouting commands, like very aggressively, shouting commands. So that person, other person on the other side is panicking and freaking out. And any sudden move they make, it's a bang. Um, I'm all about empathy. I think I believe in today's society, it's something that's really, really, really missing. Really missing. Empathy. Knowing what it feels like to sit where you are, to walk in your shoes, to go through what you're going through and say, oh my goodness, now I better understand who you are and where you're coming from. So without that understanding, and you're coming there with, preconceived notions based on what you've learned from the media, and you're like, well, they're all like that. They're probably just, gangbanger in there. I better have my gun ready to go. Um, when I was in my teens, I had an incident with the police,
Oh,
and the gun was drawn at me,
wow.
and it was me and um, Sean's brother.
Hmm.
I don't think you know about this. Maybe you do. It's me and Sean's younger brother, and we went to a place, and it was an event. It was a after club event called Nitro. So this is like 10 cars, teenagers, right? And we all storm a 7-Eleven. This happened in Maples, right by your old school. There's a Shell there, and there's a 7-Eleven on St. Anne's Road or St. Mary's Road.
Mhm.
By remember that little There's a little school there. It's a collegiate. Anyways, we went and we rushed the place. 10 cars. So every car has more than 2 people in there. Think of that number. And everyone just grabs. Now, the absolute truth is, I did not steal anything, nor did Sean's brother. But we were in my first car, an 81 Honda Civic. So now everyone's like, you got what you need? But we were at the scene. So we ran and we got into the car. Now, there were 2 guys that came into my car, and they dumped a whole bunch of candies in the back seat.
Wow.
So me and Daryl get in the car, and we're gonna take off, right? Because we parked in the back alley. And just then, a police cuts us off. The guy gets out like that. I'm like, my goodness. Now let me tell you, nothing happened. No guns were drawn. We weren't arrested. We got to sit in the back of a cruiser. We got interrogated, and then we got let go.
Well, no, guns were drawn.
That's what I said. Guns were drawn.
But that
Oh,
should
okay.
never have happened, you know.
Right.
Right.
But the fact that we're taking off, we've stolen property right from 7-Eleven, and we're leaving. So they're like, at that time, there was no tasers. There were no tasers back then. So we get in the car to take off. And anyways, now we're in the back seat of the cruiser. I'm freaking out. I am super freaking out. I don't know about Daryl, but I'm going crazy because as a kid, I went to jail for one night in Ghana. I must have been like 7 or 8. So all I'm thinking of is like the trauma of going to jail, even though it was like I was in the hallway or the foyer of the jail. And I'm just like freaking out. So this is my running with law enforcement, no record, nothing like that. But think of what happened in the States. Exact same incident in the States. That gun drawn, I'm not confident that bullets will stay, in their casing or in the gun. I'm not confident in that. Because of the skin color I have, because of the event, all that, I'm not confident in that. So you have this massive distrust of the police system in the States. And it's rightly so.
Yeah.
But the worst part of it all is that if police were like, oh my goodness, I just shot this kid, now I'm getting 10 to 15 years, and it's like systematically they're seeing like there is huge consequences for my actions. But now it's the reverse, where it's like, hey, yeah, I mistakenly took my taser out. I thought it was my gun, or I thought a taser was my gun, or something like that. Like, mistake. They're like, don't worry about it. Administrative leave with pay. You know what? Just stay home for a little bit. Keep the heat low. Come back in a few months. We got you. Wink, wink. That's like a regular civilian could never shoot somebody and get a wink, wink. But the police force, and I think they've said there's actually white supremacists on these police forces.
Right.
Like they're part of the system. And
Right.
sometimes these guys are like a chief or something higher up, a sergeant,
Yeah, it's definitely a topic that we could go on about.
But I'm just thinking that, when it's your family member that this happens to, it's someone you physically know. This is, I'm trying, the parents of this child, she was on TV just sobbing.
Yeah.
Sobbing. And what about that cop now? Like, what are they going through? Is it, oh, we got one off the street? Or I feel horrible this happened. I can't believe I did that. That I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
All valid.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think, yeah. I mean, that topic in itself is a huge one, right?
And I think the issue is, the topics we talk about, they're not light.
Right.
These are
You
like
know,
podcasts on their own.
yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, I think that's off, off the top, and just talking out loud right now. I mean, that's something that I think if we don't have it on our list already, I'm just jotting it down right now. We will talk about,
Absolutely.
and just in general. I mean, this the whole like police, police brutality and reform, right? If you want to say like that, can be a whole thing on its own.
And I
And,
think we should even have a
and
I was
so on.
think we should even have a former police officer as a guest.
Even a
Oh,
current, if they're okay with that. I mean,
Well, yeah, current, I don't know, man.
I mean,
Current, I don't know.
I know some friends that are officers that may be willing to. I mean, I think they're obviously, I think they're allowed as long as they're. I mean, yeah, if they're comfortable with it, they're comfortable with it, right? I mean, I know
I'm only
that
thinking
there's that
about
thing about the sort of you hear about the code,
the
sort of the
code. That's what
unwritten
I'm thinking
code,
about.
but some officers aren't afraid to say like, yes, we maybe need to do things a little differently,
right.
and they're okay with that, right? So, um, but
I'm thinking
yeah,
about the
the,
repercussions when they go back to work. Like they see their other fellow officers, and they're like, "Man, what are you saying that? Like, on live, on like a live podcast? Like
Yeah.
you're hurting us, right?"
right,
So then he or she has to deal with that we're not aware of. So
right,
that's why I was saying former, because they're like, "Hey, I got my pension, you can't touch me," you
right,
know.
right. Oh man, we had a lot of stuff to talk about. We had a lot of great conversation with this, and I don't know what the weather's like out there in Toronto today. I mean, John, you're a little further out now, living in Hamilton now, but so it's sort of a dreary day here. But I'm glad we could sort of um, touch on a bunch of different topics and have some real good conversation. I said,
If
Natasha, we need to have you on again soon. I mean, one note that I had, and we mentioned this yesterday too, but just as a tidbit, just as a did you know
Did you
that
know?
did you know that Natasha and her family is actually invented doubles? For those of you that are Trini or know the full,
ooh,
Yes.
you know what doubles are, John? John's. I know you. That's not your background, but have you had doubles before?
when I turn my head like this and look at you, that means I do.
Oh yeah.
Come on, man.
And well, you're in Toronto. Even if you hadn't had them in Winnipeg,
Actually,
Toronto, I'm sure you got a lot of
there's
spots
a
there, right?
a Trinidadian family that I used to go to church with in Winnipeg, and the wife, her cooking was enough. Like, was enough reason why I'm like, oh, that's why you married her,
Yeah.
because she made this thing called and Natasha has to correct me. It was like bust up shot.
Bus up
Yeah.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
mm.
It's so good when it's warm and just, yeah.
Bite your cheeks, the inside, and your tongue, and your bottom lip, and whenever I go over there, man, you know, oh man, wheelbarrow, if you know what I mean, like roll you out in the wheelbarrow. So first serving, she's like, no, no, Johnny, go back, and I have to go back, right? And when she married her husband, she's like, he's too skinny. And man, she's like, you need to beef up. So if you live in that house, you're not going to be weighing the same that you started. But yeah, doubles, serious business. There's a place actually in Scarborough
Yeah.
that sells it, and it's like all ladies in the back with this massive oven, and
Yeah.
there's a lineup. Oh, it's dangerous. Just
Yeah.
letting you know, Natasha, your people are dangerous in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, just to add to that, Sean, like, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. So my grandparents were the ones in 1936 who actually invented, and basically it became a huge later on in the years. And my uncle, so my dad's brother, wrote a book. I actually just have it here to show you guys. So it's called Out of the Devil's Kitchen, and it's just about our family and how it actually ended up, starting off and growing into a massive industry. And we just got awarded from Princestown Regional Corporation an award of recognition for um, being the family in the history of doubles. So
It's
we're
nice.
really, really proud of it. It's something that, our last name means something to us because back then doubles was looked at very poorly and it was just a means for my family to make money.
Yeah.
And then it ended up becoming bigger and now it's just a phenomenal dish that we can all enjoy. But yeah, if you Google it or look it up, there's a lot of information on it, but it's something I'm really proud of. So,
Yeah. Like, was there one person in your family that was like really instrumental that
well,
in
it was
it?
both my grandfather and my grandmother. So they both kind of came up with the idea of putting the bara and the chana on top of the bara. But when they would go out and sell it, people would say, double it up to give them two baras on, one on top, the chana, and then the bar on the bottom. And that's where the name doubles came from. So them together was a really big powerhouse. They were very poor. And it was just, they had all these kids and they had to find a way to feed them. So they would hustle, they would go out. And I think that's where I get that in my drive. It's genetic where you go out there and you sacrifice, you do what you can to make a living. So both of them were instrumental to make it what it is now. So it's really cool to be part of that bloodline.
That's
Yeah.
massive. That's massive.
That's
I
But
mean
the
that
book is
that
on Amazon and it's something that, it's a really great story if people are interested to see how it started and where we are now.
And what's the name
yeah.
of the book again? Just so people
It's
know.
out of the Devil's Kitchen. So you can get it on Amazon. And Badru Dean was my uncle, the one that wrote the book. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I love um these I call them like roots stories. Like like this is like what you're seeing today. No, this is not how we got here. Like, and then you hear the actual root story, and you're like, wow. So imagine the first early years of your grandparents doing this, where it's like, man, like we're still struggling. And then something happens, maybe a big bulk order, and so on and so on and so on. And then whatever they earn now is like they can't just flaunt it or just spend it wildly because they're like, look, we had some fights about money, and these kids, especially that little one over there, and it's just a huge issue, right? So I love your family story because I think it's something where you don't take where you are now for granted because you're just
you
like
saw where it
that
came from.
all
Yeah.
over again, right?
And it's just really humbling to know, what they sacrificed and the pain they went through and like the night. I don't know how they got up every morning knowing their hardship, but it got my family, myself, to an amazing life. If so, it's like you see what they had to go through to give me and all of you, where we are now.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And that you talking about doubles now makes me hungry
No,
now.
now you got to go get some.
I gotta guess. I've made them before personally, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, so I gotta
Oh yeah.
even
Well, the
more
Dean's
respect.
Doubles in Winnipeg used to be owned by my family, but they did sell it, so the name still remains, but it's all different.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jeans,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
I actually got introduced to the Caribbean culture in high school.
Oh, wow.
That's yeah. I just I hear like West Indies. I didn't know what that was. And
Mm,
there was actually a rapper from back in the day, Special Ed, and
okay.
his family's from the West Indies. So that's when I started hearing more about them. But when I got acquainted to the West Indian cuisine, oh my goodness!
You can never go
Like
back once you
Yeah.
taste
no,
our food.
no. I think I would say one of my comfort foods would be the roti shell.
Oh, roti. Just
Roti.
roti alone, man. Like
Oh, he
I
looks
could
like
have
he's
that
gonna get
every
some
day.
today.
Yeah.
There's a place on Ellis called Tropicus,
Yeah,
and you can buy like a
the
big pizza
shell.
box, right? And that thing would go in the freezer, warm it up, and I could just eat that by itself.
Well, in Toronto, I have to say I've tried so many West Indian places. The best I have to say is Drupadi's in it's kind of by that has to be like one of the best West
What's that spot again? You cut out for a second.
Drupadi's.
Drupal.
Drupadi's. Yeah.
Where
So
is
that's
that?
another. it's kind of near the airport. Kind of in, I can't remember the exact location, but definitely the food there is like very close to like perfect.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. So
Wow.
next when I come to Toronto again, after all this,
We
Uh,
will take you for
yeah,
dinner.
absolutely.
yeah, we all get to
Um,
get out. So,
I know we've gone way over time, everybody. Thank you, everyone, anyone that's still with us. Um, but there is one thing, Sean, you have on the list here, which is the mental illness side or the mental effects of the lockdown.
yeah, that's
That it's out over
And
there.
I
Yeah.
mean, we
again, that
haven't.
could be a whole topic, but I mean, yeah, but I mean, how are you guys? You guys are locked down there. I mean, we're not really locked. If you're talking about if it's, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. This is one of the things where Winnipeg is maybe ahead a little bit. We might get back into lockdown because we had that months ago but we never had, I don't think, to the extent that you guys
Yeah, we've been
had.
locked down from
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
like right now we've actually we've gone down a lot, like where there's maybe like, again, I work also, I work with the Manitoba government as well, like with media and stuff like that. So that's, I'm exposed to these like numbers and stuff every day. So getting those numbers, and the numbers were actually going down a lot, where we had like not as low as it did last year, where we had like, we had weeks without like
right.
with zero deaths and things like that, right? But we've had it down to like, a couple days with like zero deaths reported or one death. um I mean, it's still obviously still a person, so it's still not to say that it's a really a good thing, but it's good to see the numbers go down. And then now it's like everything's open, we can go basically anywhere. There's just sort of limits on capacity and distancing and stuff like that
Right.
too. But I heard about a lot. I mean, how is that affecting you guys?
Oh man,
How is
that's a
that's got to be
whole other podcast, but I'll kind of just jump
right.
in. It's You can be the strongest person and introverted and whatnot, but after a year and a half, there's like this point where you're like bored, you're tired, your motivation. I find like the passion, the motivation, just in general, somehow kind of, I don't know what it is. It just stops a little bit, and we're overworked, we're burning out, and you're getting used to just seeing your walls, and it's hard. And I've been talking to a lot of people that are had negative thoughts and thought about committing suicide. I was driving towards Eglinton, if you know where that is, and I look up and a girl's about to jump off the bridge. So I got out and I had to call the cops. Yes. And get this, as I called the cops, I get put on hold. I've never called 911, and I was very shocked that I got put on hold when I called 911. That's a whole other topic. But
Wow.
I just remember I've never seen that, where I looked up and you see somebody holding on, they're 1 foot off of the bridge and they're about to, and I'm like, if she jumps, she's jumping on my car. We saved her, luckily, but it's not easy. And people are just thinking people are fine, but they're not. And one thing that I can just add that's helped me is I'm a very spiritual person. And so I believe a lot in your mindset, and I meditate twice a day. And I really have to do that to kind of center myself, to realize that there's more to this, all this that's going on. And I have to make sure that I remember that, because it's hard. It
Yeah. Wow. That's, I didn't know that. Yeah, that story, like that.
Yeah, that happened
It,
to me last month, and it shakes you, because now every time I drive that bridge, I just see her. And I also, you just think life got so bad that death was easier. And I tried to empathize with that with a few friends that told me they also were wanting to, commit suicide. They've actually planned and wrote out a letter of how they're going to commit suicide. I tried to empathize with that for a couple seconds, of that death was easier than this. And it shakes you, because I only felt maybe 1% of that, and they're feeling it every day heavily.
right.
So it threw that's where I think it threw me off. And it's been a hard couple months, because you want to help everybody, but how can I can't go anywhere. And now
Right.
they've changed the rules. I don't know if you know, Sean, but we're not allowed to really drive or walk around unless it's like essential. So
Really.
we're like locked in.
That's really locked down. Yeah, that's serious.
So I don't know how some of these small businesses that have flourished for 30 years, or people that are single moms, or people that are in abusive relationships, or again, like people that just have mental health, depression issues now, how I don't know how they're coping. And that's what scares me about what's happening here in Toronto.
Wow. Yeah, like I can't almost can't imagine. I know it's an effect on people. I know,
Oh,
like
it
you
is.
said, everyone has their different levels that they can cope with, and I mean, I myself too. Like we had mentioned too, that I mean, I find that meditation helps
Yeah.
too. I mean, I recommend it to everybody if they can. Even there's apps out there. I mean, I use this Headspace app myself as well. Been using that for a long time.
And
But
sorry to
go ahead.
interject, meditation, I want everyone to know, is not, you don't have to be spiritual or religious to do it. The whole purpose of basically meditating is just to stop your thoughts and to get yourself to just be present. And Sean and I were talking about this yesterday, that the most successful people, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Elon Musk, they all meditate because it gives them a sense to help with decision making, but also keeps them in this moment than worrying about tomorrow or yesterday. So just know that meditation is a great tool for anyone. That's it.
Yeah, agree. No, agree.
That's way too much.
100%, 100% agree. And yeah, it's just it's like I said, it's I'm hoping that and yeah, what we do here, what we talk about here, what we are talking about, I hope that someone, as you said too, Natasha, even if it's just one person or a couple of people that will listen to this, see this, and say, you know what, let me try that, and it helps them to maybe avoid like
Exactly.
spiraling and maybe sort of center themselves, get their thoughts in order, or like sort of block out those negative voices in their head. Then I hope that this helps somebody.
And just to let them know that, like, you can, again, be the strongest person. You can have everything together. You can never have those moments where you're just like, okay, I'm down today and I don't know why. Like, that's normal in the situation we're in. And it's hitting every single person. And what worries me are kids who are losing out on a full year of what, graduation, or being out, having conversations with other little kids. Like, it's going to hit in all different levels.
Definitely.
Um,
Go ahead.
this is I'm an extrovert. I love to be outside and see people and friends and stuff. So for me, last March it was really really tough. At home, at work, just because the gym started closing, right? And
Yeah.
then they would open, and then there's a wait list, and then it was shut down, and it was just like, what is going on? So I feel like every movie about the end, every movie about something like this is like happening, but you can't change the channel, you can't press pause, you can't go to the washroom and come back, like you're living in it. And I've mentioned this before, but it's really the pyramid of what's happening here, the pyramid effect or the iceberg effect. So the first top layer, the 10% that we all see, is the cases and deaths. Tomorrow, cases and deaths, and I think that's what's driving the mental illness, the mental impact. I think that's what's really hurting, because it's like I'm not seeing things getting better, but what we're not really seeing is underneath that iceberg, right?
Yeah.
What you mentioned earlier is that there's like divorces, boom, the impact on kids, on relationships, on and on and on. That to me is the real pandemic,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that one isn't going to be a bunch of millions or trillions to try and solve that one. That's going to be like decades upon decades to fix that, because you have homes that are just crashed. And the thing about the numbers is, like here we got, like we're in the 4,000s now. And I'm just like, 4,000
You talking
so
about 4,000
A
what
cases,
day.
cases a day? Well, yeah, I guess
right?
it sounds
And
for the
I'm
size of
just
the city, yeah.
I'm just like, so personally, everybody, I don't buy it. And I don't buy it because
Mm.
um, you can just put that number on there, right? Like, how do you fact check that? That's what I'm saying. The death's a different story, but you're causing society to implode on itself. You're causing homes to just um, live in fear and in panic because they're just like, they were just dealing with 1,000 like months ago. Now it's 2,000. Now it's 3,000. Now it's 4,000. And then depending on where you read, some are saying 18,000.
By the end of May, based on
Yeah,
the rate.
but
Yeah.
and that's my other issue is the projection. There are some projections that started last year of what's going to happen like right now. How
Yeah.
can you project that so precisely? Um, but and I think there'll come a time where we're going to see everything and a lot more information. Um, but for my family and I, we stay home a lot. Sadly. Um, but I just don't like what's happening because um, it's kind of like winter and then you got spring and summer. There's going to be a thaw. There's going to be a thaw from all of this. And that is what I think we're not ready for. So if this is where we're at right now, I don't like the future. I don't like what it potentially looks like because um, if we're having a hard time with this and they're talking about 18,000 cases a day,
Yeah.
so my question is, how is that reporting happening? Can you audit that report? Who are these people? Where are they going? Is it a phone call? Just how is that happening? Because if it's just a number on a screen, well, and I mean, the thing is, I have a hard time just believing whatever I see on a screen, right? Without ever thinking, like,
Right.
how is that happening? How's that possible? Right? You're wearing masks, social distancing, we're locked down. Like, all these additional things that are happening, but still things are getting worse, right? And
Yeah.
then the vaccine is coming in. So I'm just like, well, what are we doing, right? The kids, we've got neighbors here, and the kids they're cool, but they're going to school, and now they're being told when you go outside to play in recess, you gotta still wear your mask.
I know.
These are kids running around.
Really, hey, look, yeah,
Yeah.
it hasn't got like that, like I said, here yet. Hopefully
It's
it
a
doesn't.
different beast over here.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't, because I mean that's one thing that for me, yeah, if we're talking about mental health, I'm I'm just glad that and I hope it changes for you guys over there too, because I mean I'm glad if I get a chance. I mean people obviously don't like having to wear masks and follow all these different things, these rules and things like that.
Hmm.
But where I can find some solace again, outside of meditation, things like that, is also I know I can walk outside right now, right? So because it's spring type weather, I can still get outside, like at least give people
That.
that, right? Like I can go for at least even if everything's closed, like I can go for a walk around the block or something. Like I can go grab my bike and go for a ride right now. At least feel a little bit of freedom and I can be breathing fresh air without a mask. Like
We
give
can't.
people at least something, right? Like because yeah, I guess
You
it's
start to just think and think and think, and yeah. You can only watch so many shows. You can only work out so much, clean your closet, work. Um, it gets like it affects your sleep, start eating differently. Like it's a whole catapult of stuff. And this next 6 weeks is going to be interesting. That's all I got.
You know what?
yeah.
Like throughout this whole thing, for me, it's prayer. That really calms me down. Um, and just, looking at what's happening. There's something I read in scripture in Matthew chapter 24 that chronicles what's happening. And I have to just say that this is one of the things that's happened in history, that's really changed us. One of them being in 9/11. There are some things that fundamentally happen in society that just change what society was yesterday, right? Because we now have a new today, right? Not even a new normal, not even a new normal, but a new today. So, you see air travel. There's YouTube of people like traveling at the airports, and it's empty.
For sure.
The flight is like half empty. They're walking down the airport corridor, and there's like restaurant closed, restaurant closed, restaurant closed, restaurant closed, like boarding gates closed, like.
Yeah.
So that is an impact, right? And the economy is made out of transactions. Like, simply, that's it. If I'm not buying, you're not selling. There's none of that happening. So the government could only stimulate the economy so much until they're like, okay, we ran out of money. What do we do now? Well, now it's different because it's a lot of printing money and digital money. But at what point do we say, okay, like, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Right. And these are the experts talking. These are the experts, the PhDs talking. But in some countries, I heard, like, I think in Switzerland, there's no masks. Right. Like, in some countries, things aren't as bad.
Right.
But I'm just trying to wonder, like, what has to happen here? Because I think the ultimate goal here is really as a global vaccination. But the global vaccination still doesn't mean you can't get it and you can't pass it, and you still have to be socially distancing. So I'm confused about what's happening and the actual answer, and
Yeah.
I think that part of things not getting better is what's causing more mental
I think
anguish.
it's also like we usually have control of our life. Right now, we have no control. We have to just wait for something to be somewhat told we should be doing next. So that's another layer, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I think that obviously adds a lot to the
Yeah.
whole the mental health part of it, right? Again, with that focus is that, yeah, I mean, that with confusion in the mix, and that feeling of being unsure and not knowing what's happening next,
Yeah.
and not having control, like all those things on top of each other are just like, not to make it sound worse, or cliche by saying like a recipe for disaster, but it's something that's really, really tough to cope with. I mean, it's
And no one's really talking about all of the effects that we are today. It's kind of just like silence, but it's
yeah,
happening and it's bad.
yeah. I think it's almost like, I don't know what to compare it to, but I
No one
think
wants to face it, maybe? I don't know.
it could be, if we don't talk about it, maybe it'll just go away, kind of thing. Is the
I
thought.
hope not.
No, I mean, I think that could be somewhat of the thought, but I think part of it too is, I don't know if it's more a North American thing, but just as an example, I don't know why I thought of this right now, but I think sometimes the way of thinking, um, just to use an example, I talked to John about this before, but you know, um, I'm not a huge sport. I'm a bit of I'm a sports fan, I guess, but I saw something where it was talking about when you see a football game in North America and you watch a soccer or European football, like British. The North American way is they will, obviously it's different type of football, but they will be like, there's this receiver, they throw the ball, he catches it, runs, whatever, makes it almost all the way, and that right away they bring up numbers on the screen. This is his fifth reception this year. It's now he's got 335 yards. He started last year, and they bring up all the stats and how he compares to so and so on the other team and all this kind of stuff. I saw something like that, either it was a YouTube video or something like that, and then they flipped it to European soccer, right? And they would some play would happen, right? They kick the ball, whatever, somebody scores, and it was just like lovely, this beautiful goal, sparkling here, it's beautiful, well, this and that. And it's no mention of numbers at all, but they're talking about the feelings of just the feeling that you get from it is what they were talking about. They weren't mentioning any numbers at all. And not to say that they never do, but just bringing it to this point is, I think, yeah, if they're so focused, I think we're so focused a lot in the society on the data and the numbers, and that's important stuff. I mean, that content that drives information, that information is valuable, but I think if it's not balanced, where, yeah, I think there needs to be more. I think you're right, Natasha and John as well. I think you're right with saying that there needs to be more focus on that rather than, because daily numbers, I mean, that can just get to be kind of depressing, right? It can just be like, okay, like you said, it's 3,000, it's 4,000,
Exactly.
it's like up, it's down, could be this number later on, could be this by the
I
end.
stop checking because I'm like, what's the point?
What's the point?
Yeah, it's like we don't have any control over those numbers. It's almost like maybe they.
It just
Not to say I don't think they ever stop.
like 5,000 a day. I'm like, yeah, okay, like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do.
It's kind of like you're filling up a bucket of water, and the
Mm.
more you fill it, the lower the bucket level gets. You're like, oh, like what's the point? Um, I'm thinking about, let's say a year from now, right? Just imagine what you think things would be like a year from now. I missed the COVID bubble, you know. Um, how do you think society is getting on?
It's gonna be so different.
So different.
Yeah.
We're all different. Like after the last year, I think we've all changed, hopefully for the better, but just we're all different people now.
Yeah, like we're talking to one guest earlier about like dating and COVID, like dating in the COVID era, right? Um, I'd almost think that today, because of apps like Tinder, OKC, and eHarmony, all that kind of stuff, now I don't have to see you, right? You can have virtual dating, right? There's actually a commercial for Match and eHarmony where it was just like, hey, we can talk online like this. How was your day? Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Let's order pizza from Domino's and let's eat together. Like that's where we've gotten to. Hey, did you get pepperoni? Oh, I got chicken. Oh, cheers. Here's my glass of wine. Here's your glass of wine. Clink, virtual clinks.
Yeah,
This is not human, people.
Yeah, it's not quite the same, and I appreciate the effort too. I mean, I gotta applaud the effort a little bit, but I get it's not the same thing. I know I was, even from my work too, like last year, I'm just a little bit more busy with stuff this year, but last year when it had first started, like I was on this wellness committee kind of thing. So when we have everybody's working from home, but we had our weekly meetings and sending out newsletters and things like that, and sort of fun activities for people to do and things like that. But it's just, as much as we appreciate that kind of stuff, it's just not the same, right? It's just not the same with there's like everything is virtual. Like, I mean, I see like there's been more initiatives. Again, I'm just sort of talking more about work with, people will put on Microsoft Teams or whatever. They'll have like, hey, you guys, there's a virtual water cooler on Friday if anybody wants to
join and watch.
I'm like, okay, yeah, we could talk. And then
that sounds so dumb.
It's like virtual water cooler. We can't be in the office to talk, but if anybody wants to just chat about stuff virtually and just about how your week is going and whatever, which is maybe that helps to an extent, but it's still not the same as like you can see like I appreciate even right now that we can all see each other. We can see each other's smiles and reactions and maybe frustration with some things and that we can see that, but it's just different experiencing it. It's hard to even put your finger on, but not even that you even have to be like to even physically touch somebody, but even just being in the same room with them, like actually in the same room and having them be a certain like distance from
Yeah.
you, like it's different when somebody smiles and they're right in front of you in the same room with you, right? You feel that differently than when they smile on a screen, or when they are sad about something and you can
You can feel
just
it.
yeah, there's some sort of energy there, right?
Just one last thing I was going to add to this is that the only positive thing that I could see that came out of it is it forced us all to stop. And it did force us to see, okay, hustle and the grind. I mean, there's more to life than that. And we took a lot for granted. Like now when I go for a walk, I enjoy my walk. I see things and I hear things I would have missed before. And I also find like others are also a little more compassionate when they maybe weren't before, or empathetic. Like it's bringing out qualities that of people that were missing, in certain aspects of life. So it's like a 1% positive little.
Yeah, I think a year ago, I had a client where we were doing like Zoom calls and WebEx, and no video. Right? We have the call, but everyone's turning off their video.
Yeah,
Today, everyone's turning on their videos.
because we need to see people.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Because they're like, oh, this thing is we're gonna be like this for a while. Oh, Sean, that's what you look like. Oh, high five, buddy. Right. I wanna see the body language now. Right. Oh, that's what you meant. Oh, I got you now. By the way, you look like Kim Kardashian's twin. By the way, just letting you know.
Me?
No, I'm not talking to
Oh,
Sean.
I
By
was
the way,
like,
that's not Sean. Sean is not for you. That's not for you.
I want to say I'm flattered for you telling me that, John.
Just
I appreciate it.
yeah,
I've
take a
been working on
selfie of
that.
this, like
Yeah.
put like a Kim next to you. Like she has some looks where it looks like you could be her twin or her double.
really? Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's a compliment.
The thing is, Sean thought I was talking about him. That's
No,
what's
Yes, you
disturbing.
did.
no. Okay. I did.
For a
Well, I
moment
mean,
there, he's
I
like,
mean that's
"Are you
I
serious? I
I,
had a
I,
fade
well,
yesterday."
I said I did get a cut yesterday, but I don't know if it's a Kardashian cut, right?
Um,
honestly that is really kind of you.
no
Thank
worries, no
you.
worries. Um, but I know we've gone way over time. Whoever's
Oh
still
my
with
goodness.
us,
I feel
probably
really
probably
bad.
my
I'm
dad's still
recording
watching
this
us.
episode and we're like 2.5
Yeah,
hours.
Well, you know what? I think what I'll just say this out right now. I think we'll make this. I mean, when we post it up, it's going to be like we'll call it either double episode or whatever. It could be more than double, but we'll say a double episode. I might even split it into two parts if people want to watch it.
it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
I
Uh,
honestly wanted to say I appreciate so much that you've asked me to join. Like I was telling Sean when he asked me, I was like, me? Like I just felt like, you could have so many other guests, and but the minute I hear anything to do with Winnipeg, or if something I say resonates with somebody else, I'm on board. So thank you both for inviting me on the show, and I think you're doing a great job and great thing for everybody.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you on the show, and like I said, it's I think it was an easy choice. I mean, for you on like you are very very, as I said yesterday, I believe the word was intriguing because you have um a lot going on. I mean, a lot to say, a lot with your story from Winnipeg to Toronto, the family background, your and maybe even part of it was a big part of it might have been like you posting those polls, right? I mean, and it seems to be that you would be the type of person that would have some thoughts and some interesting things to say and some opinions on things. So um, yeah, no, it was great, and again, even with all this, I think we still need to have you back another time too. At
I
some
would
point.
love to come back, and I hope your viewers, got a little bit of something from this.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
I just want to say to everyone, all our viewers and our listeners, first of all, we absolutely appreciate you. Like, you know, just having you hear us and share us to other people is absolutely tremendous. But just understand that, you know, when we're talking, think of it like you're talking to your friend. Like you could talk to them for an hour, 45 minutes, even 3 hours, right? On things that impact your values and your personal culture.
Right.
So sometimes we're going to go over, sometimes we're going to go under. Um, but also, it depends on the vibe of the conversation, who we're talking to. Now, a lot of times, just me and Sean, but Sean will say something that sends me to Jupiter, and I'm like, I gotta talk about this, and vice versa. So, you know, we're not a cookie cutter show where it's like 23 minutes,
Right.
let's move on. Like this is life we're talking about.
And I
Yeah.
think it's
So
really great that you have, the male perspective, the female perspective, and
we
we're
need
talking
it.
about topics that, people want to know honest, authentic
We
answers.
need it. Yeah, and I mean, I'll always be honest with my thoughts. I'm really just disturbed by how sensitive we are in society today. And my quick thought on that is today, as we're sitting here, every individual has never been more powerful, collective, like either individually or collectively, ever in history. Like more powerful. In other words, the things you say, think, or believe can sway people's buying decisions or a company's existence,
Right.
or a celebrity's, next movie. You can say, this girl touched me or this guy touched me and just ruin them,
Right.
right? So today, with social media, people have this power they've never had. And then the power also goes to where you have something online and they'll trash you. Like they'll trash you. Like you look like a cow. I'm like,
Right.
what?
Well, I was just saying to also Sean, like, with my social media, what I try to do is it's a platform for us to help others as well. So I know I put a lot of meditations up that I follow, or just quotes or things that might help a couple people um, just pull through the day. So if everybody did that, I think it would be really great.
Yeah, I think that's a key element where people sort of forget sometimes, right? That social media, I mean, really, I guess you could use it any way you want, but ideally, when it, in the early stages of it, it was sort of like, whenever you read an article, if it was like, when Facebook first came out, hey, it's a way for us to connect with each
Exactly.
other, for us to like share things, right? And somehow it sort of evolved a little different, and that might be another show even. We have like
Oh, we have so many topics now.
a lot of topics. I'm trying that down. Social media. Okay.
Yeah, like, it's really are. I think our topics, they are
Massive.
they're massive, right? Because the social implications, like if we had said, Winnipeg weather and Toronto weather, that's a 34-second conversation.
Right.
It's cold, it's mild.
Right.
But the things we talk about, and I don't think we don't plan to like have these to be long.
Yeah.
It's just as you're talking about it, like you're
You just
pulling
have
more
a
and more
great
things.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But if we're talking about something as simple as, who's a better brand, Dolce Gabbana or Gucci, I wouldn't think it'd be a very long conversation because it's very linear.
Yeah.
But we're talking about things that have emotional impact, and that's where everything changes.
And
And then we
real
bring it,
life stories
and
that
then we bring a third person on, and then she's like, "Well, like let's go to Mars." We're like, "Oh no!" So next thing you know, we're like, we went to Jupiter and Mars and Saturn. So
I had a feeling you were going to say Saturn for whatever reason. You didn't say
yeah, was Saturn the car company? The car company? Is that what you said?
I just guessed the next planet would be Saturn for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
like I
Sean.
said, it's been an amazing conversation. I think it's
Yeah,
fabulous.
thank you for being, so warm and gracious to spend time with us.
Oh,
Sacrificing your Sunday morning. Sean, always thank you for your time. Without Sean, this show would just be,
oh, I know.
without
You're
Sean, this
the
show would just be
glue
me
that holds it
blabbing.
together, Sean.
Oh, you guys are too kind. You both are too kind.
Now give me that $10 now.
I'll e-transfer you.
No. No e-transfer. No e-transfer. Crypto.
Yeah.
Crypto.
So,
That's
but yeah,
another conversation as well.
for another conversation. Yeah. No. Again, we really appreciate it. And for anyone listening and watching, again, you can catch us on Instagram. Our Instagram is whysoserious.podcast. And you can, feel free to send us, DM us on there, put your comments in. Right now, that's the best way to contact us at the moment. If you feel like you want to be a guest, or you have something to say, or you want to suggest a topic, please send it to us. We're more than happy to hear from you.
And now our email is up and running.
Okay.
So the why so serious .podcast@gmail.com. Again, the why so serious .podcast@gmail.com. So if you want to be a guest, you have a comment, something you want to share that's a little longer, feel free. We'd love to hear from you. We don't know everything, so if you got things you want to share to us, or even if you have like questions you want to have us answer on air, that'd be awesome. But yeah, we're looking forward to talking about more dynamic issues that are impacting our world, beyond COVID. But let's get into business. We're going to talk about relationships, of course. We have a horde of things to talk about. So if you want to be part of that, the Why So Serious universe, please contact us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And thank you everybody for joining us. And thank you all. And we will talk soon. Until next time.
Natasha, thank you again. Have a wonderful
everybody.
day. You got it. John, talk to you soon.
Yes, we will all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.